On this episode of the Coach's Clinic podcast, brought to you by Sam Adams and Max Effort Muscle, we're all over the place, but there's some great takeaways, Mike.
That's what I was going to say. It's an eclectic show today. And
Eclectic?
Yeah, eclectic.
Eclectic. I was about to say, okay, did you make a new word up?
I don't know. That's possible. But we weaved in and out of some things, and I think you'll enjoy.
Yeah, we weaved our way through a lot of topics that I think are going to make a lot of people a lot better.
So Mike said eclectic. I'm going to go with electric. I think there was a lot of energy in this show. I mean, there was life lessons. There were some great stories. I think anyone's going to find a lot of value in this one right here. Hit play. Boom.
Yep. Let's go to the show. On Coach's Clinic podcast, our coaching staff, Coach Mike Deegan, Tyler Treadway, Dustin Myers, brought to you by MaxEffortMuscle.com and Sam Adams. Dustin.
Well, at Max Effort Muscle, we are known as the Real Athletes Company. Every one of our products is formulated with the elite athlete in mind. In order to be elite in any sport, whether we're talking powerlifting, whether we're talking combat sports, whether we're talking baseball, football, I don't care if we're talking about girls table tennis. If you want to be elite, you have to be able to train hard and you have to be able to recover. All of our products are formulated to be safe for collegiate, high school, and youth athletes. I use them myself to not just to recover, so we have our Amino Recovery, which is an amazing product that we formulated with wrestlers and combat athletes in mind. You got 10 grams of branched chain aminos, 5 grams of glutamine, plus electrolytes. My athletes use it after every practice, after every lift, to be able to maintain muscle mass as they're on a calorie deficit. So I use that. And when people think of supplements, they might just think of the big, fat burners, aminos, protein. I'm going to tell you my favorite products is our sleep product, which has been life-changing for me. I take 2 of them before bed. It has melatonin, it has tryptophan in it, and a few other things. It knocks me out. I wake up, I'm not groggy. So that's my number one. I also love our Mega D product, which I make sure I take with my lunch because vitamin D is fat soluble. There's also a lot of vitamin K in there. Vitamin K and vitamin D work together very synergistically. It's a big word for you today.
Like that.
To make sure that you're able to absorb all that vitamin D. So those are 2 of my favorite products right now. And I also really love our Stem-Free Fat Burner, which is a new product for us, modeled after another product that we used back in the day in our natural bodybuilding days. And this, unlike a lot of our normal fat burner and other fat burners are on the market that really operate by, raising your internal temperature and helping your body, kind of burn fat, these stem-free fat burners actually help your body utilize that fat into fuel as it's broken down. So it really helps, kind of maintain energy, again, when you're on a calorie deficit, which is probably what you're going to be when you are trying to burn fat and taking our stem-free fat burner. So I think that Max Effort Muscle is the smart choice for any athlete out there. Like I said, I don't care whether you're a youth wrestler, like my son who takes our Amino Recovery. I don't care if you're a high school or a collegiate athlete, or even a middle-aged dad like all the guys right here, except for Treadway. He's getting close, though. That's really trying to stay in the game and being able to train hard and recover on a daily basis so you can keep it coming. Go to maxeffortmuscle.com. You get it with an XL stack, any 5 products, plus your pick of super comfy hoodie. And we got the I Want Abs contest coming up real soon. We're giving away an Escalade. We got a ton of other prizes. Registration for that opens on January 1, and it is going to be life-changing. maxeffortmuscle.com.
Shout out Sam Adams, too. Drink more Sam Adams beer. They're supporting the boys. You got to support them. All right, so, fellas, we're back. What have we been wrestling with lately? Not actually wrestling, but Treadway, from a coaching standpoint, like what's been going on? What's a topic on your mind?
So
not the one we were talking about before.
Yeah, so I had an instance this past weekend. The club soccer team that I coach, we had a tryout.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wrestling with a question from one of the players. He couldn't make the tryout, and he asked me if he could make it up some other time because he wasn't informed of the days that they were. And there were 2 guys on my team who are teammates of him, or teammates with him in college, and I, brought the question up to them. I was like, hey, did he know about this? And they're like, yeah, we reminded him a couple times. So,
but he told you
but he told me
wasn't
that he wasn't informed. So I had to make an example, and I felt this was the first time in my coaching career I've had to, be the the lesson teacher, and I said, hey, man, just FYI, if you would have just come out and told me that you weren't able to make it, or, you know, I know it's close to Christmas, it was 30 degrees and snowing, like, you couldn't make it for whatever reason, like, I would have given you a second opportunity. But since you came to me and you were dishonest, I can't have room for that character in my club. And he took it pretty hard. He was very upset with me and, you know, kind of tried to battle his way out of it. And I was like, look, man, unfortunately, that's just the standard that I have to hold. You know, if I were I try to be a very honest person, even if it hurts somebody's feelings. I think that's probably the best thing you can do. It's you know, early in my life in high school and college, you try to get away with the white lies, and they always come back to bite you. So ever since then, I've always tried to be honest. So I had to learn a tough lesson and, you know, kind of hold the standard and call this kid out, which I don't typically like to do. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's what I was kind of wrestling with this weekend.
But you're glad you did it.
I'm very glad that I did it.
Yeah. Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I'm listening into that and just thinking of a couple things. Yeah, I think one, right? So if I'm clear, he told a lie.
Yeah.
But when I'm processing decisions like that, I always think that I do everything I can to communicate properly first. Like I'm going to try to take a lot of that responsibility early. And I have a friend right now who just took a new job, and there's some employees in his organization that aren't probably up to snuff. But he said in the first year, I want to save them by trying to overly communicate. I want to make sure we're doing everything we possibly can. Now, at the end of the year, then we're going to have a different conversation. So, anyways, as a coach, yeah, I think you held the line. That's good. But I think another layer to this is I always think first that where was I wrong, especially before I make a big decision. I don't know if this was a big decision, but we were talking about letting somebody go or something that can really impact your trajectory. I want to make sure that our coaching staff has covered all our bases first. So, anyways, that wasn't a criticism. It was just something else to add to that conversation.
Well, I had this problem when I was a teacher with two kids that were real talented that, like, I don't know if they just weren't fucking listening to me or what, but then we get to the end of the 9 weeks or 12, however long it is in a quarter in school. That shows how much I know. But and they were, like, scrambling. I was like, yo, fellas, this is too late. Like, you knew what was the expectation. I'm not even a real teacher. This ain't that difficult. And then I had to make an example of really just life. Like, if you acted like this, I would never return your call if you're trying to get a job. I would never take you serious. And you're going to be going against me in the industry. I'm going to beat you every day, all up and down. Like, so if you think you can operate like this, then you got another thing coming. And so kind of the same thing actually happened with AG on this online gym shit. And he's scrambling at the end. I said, you know what I did to the kids that did that? I failed them. I said, I hope they give you, like, some grace because you're being an idiot. But, like, this is the best lesson. Like, you might for real be messed up. He ended up scrambling and getting it done. But the reality is, like, if they're, if it's blatant, that's the problem, right? It's blatant. They can't get away with it, man. Like, and that's why I told him, like, in my situation, I liked both those kids. I think they were good. They thought they could get away with it, and they couldn't. And I had to just be like, no. To get an F in my class at Columbus State is pretty damn hard. I mean, Dawn basically came and got me when I didn't show up for a month and I didn't get an F. Like, it's pretty bad. So I've got some favor on that. It was bad. So I like that you did that, Charlie.
So I think it's good that you kind of set the standard, you held to it, but kind of my perception of kids, and we are kind of talking about kids here, but young athletes or whatever, is they are going to lie from time to time. They're used to, like, telling little white lies to their girlfriend or their parents or their teacher because they feel like they're harmless. And I feel like they're always going to try to get one over on you. So I kind of, and I've dealt with this with my college kids before and my high school kids, I always kind of let them do it once. But then I'll let them know kind of after the fact, like, I know you were lying. I know you didn't go to practice because I already talked to so-and-so. But I'll set it up in a way, like, when I know they weren't there, and I'll be like, hey, Maddox, when you went down to RTC, yesterday, who was your partner? Oh, I went with Micah and I did this. Well, I already asked him if he was there, so I knew he wasn't there. So I let them lie. And then but instead of saying, like, okay, you just lied to me, you're out of here, I say, all right, so, like, I'm going to explain something to you. I'm not your dad. I'm not even really, like, your number one coach. I'm your lifting coach. When I ask you something, you tell me the fucking truth. Yeah. And that just is what it is.
That was your one.
That was your one. Yeah. So I'm gonna let you slide on it. I'm gonna let you know, like, you ain't fucking as slick as you think you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So well, that's two different. And also maybe depending on the relationship with the person, you know what I mean, I could waver both on
Yeah.
those. Like the kid's been good most of the time. He just kind of, everybody makes mistakes, but it's like the one I didn't really have any prior relationship. It was super blatant, and it was like kind of disrespectful just in the way. And my favorite part is I had classwork that was social media based, right? So they had to post certain things, and the guy said, he goes, I just really wasn't into the things you were telling us to do. And then he says, I was just thinking like maybe I could just do my own thing. Yeah. You can get an F and do the fucking your own thing for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It was so funny. He thought he could go back and do the coursework, which had been posted on his social media in that manner, and then just do his own, curriculum. It's pretty amazing.
I mean, that is super disrespectful.
It was so disrespectful.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
And these guys are college age, so they should know a little better. But I mean, it's the same age that Treadway was dealing with. So
Well, and to kind of to your point, like you're a very relaxed, very easygoing person, and all of us kind of are. So it's like, man, if you're trying to pull one on us, what are you going to do when somebody is a little bit more harsh to you? And it's like, I'm doing you a favor. I kind of wrestled going back and forth, like, do I call him out? But he was like, hey, you can ask both of these guys about my character. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to ask you, hey, did you guys tell this guy? Like, he knew the trials were today because I've communicated with him.
Yeah.
He knew, and they're like, yeah, he knew. And I was like, okay, cool. That tells me all I need to know. But it's also like, I needed that when I was young because it would have saved me a lot, like especially in college when you're a stupid kid. Like I get it, he's being a stupid kid, but like when I was doing those things, I wish I would have had somebody that was like, hey, you lied. There are consequences to this.
Yeah.
You're lucky right now it's a small consequence. Like it doesn't really affect you. Like I don't hate the kid, obviously. Like if he wants to come back out next year, that's fine. But I wish I would have had somebody that kind of like cracked the whip on me and was like, hey, you can't get away with this because you'll start to see what you can and can't get away with, and it's easier just to learn that lesson now. Like always tell the truth.
I like it. I like Dustin's. I like both of those vibes because the catch them and make them feel kind of stupid in a way to be like, yeah, I shouldn't be lying to Dustin.
Yeah.
Like he just set me up and I look like an idiot.
That's probably a better lesson than this kid just being pissed at me because then Dustin makes them feel really inadequate.
Yeah.
Well, and who knows? Either A, it worked, and then they never lied to me again, or maybe they were just sneakier the other time.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It's really hard to tell.
And I think if we go on the other side of that, for because I think we're all not high and mighty. We've all told our lies. We've all, and so you get caught. So if you're this person, you get caught, and then you get an F, or you are not allowed to play on the team. To me, the big thing then is how you respond as that person, right? Yep. So, and for parents too. So, it's amazing to me sometimes kids will be caught red-handed, like they got an F, they got a 50% F, and they didn't go to class, they didn't do this or that, and the parents blow a storm saying, "What did the professor do wrong?" or did and no, like you don't need to do that. The F's not going to kill you, but what will kill you is the response, right?
Yeah.
If you start living a life of excuses and never making a change because of that. That's when the trouble kicks in. I mean, almost all success is prior to that is failure.
Oh, yeah.
And so how they bounce in that moment is so important. And I wish people understood that a little bit more as well. These aren't terminal things. The coach doesn't hate you. The professor doesn't hate you. You take your medicine, you learn, and then you move on.
That's some of my favorite conversations. I called both them kids. I said, I'm just going to be straight with you guys. You guys need to understand this if you want to be in the industry. Like, I'm like one of the more successful people to have come out of here, and this is how you're operating with me. Like, how does that look like when you're trying to be grown? Because you're half grown now. I'm like, y'all can't charm me. No. I was the guy charming people.
And so this F won't kill you.
Yeah, but you got to respond.
But if I would have given you a C and not ever talked to you, but this is the real lesson. You can still be successful in this business with this F if you get your shit turned around. But if you stay here, you don't have a shot.
It was actually like I knew that. Yeah, I don't know which way they went because I haven't had any correspondence, but I knew that would be definitely some type of turning point, so. I
had a situation, it was either last year or the year before with one of my high state wrestlers. They'll remain nameless, but, so some of the guys can still come out here, as long as even during the season, if they get it pre-approved by the coaching staff. And I had this one that, instead of going to whatever the weight cutting workout was that day, they're getting ready to compete in a day or two. They got to get their weight down. And he cleared it with Coach Ryan to come out and do a boxing workout with me. Well, he didn't show up, and, me and Braxton still got the boxing workout in or whatever. I get a text from him later in the day. I said, hey, when Tom texts you, meaning Tom Ryan, the head coach, he said, just tell him the boxing workout went good. Right after that, sure enough, I get a I get a text from Coach Ryan, the head coach, said, "Hey, how was so-and-so boxing today?" And I just said, "He didn't box with me." And he said, "Well, what do you mean he didn't box with you? Who did he box with?" I said, "I'm just telling you, he did not box with me."
Yeah.
So, and then I went back to the athlete, and it's hard because, these guys are, they're younger, but they're college kids. You start to become friends with them or whatever. And they know like kind of the way I operate. Like, yeah, like I ain't no snitch, but at the same time, like don't mistake like snitching with like telling a lie. I'm not going to lie for you either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I told him like, hey, like if you're running from the cops, I'm not going to tell them where you're at. But if you think when Coach Ryan comes to me, I'm going to like pretend you were out here working out when you were doing whatever else.
And sacrifice your
and
credibility.
sacrifice my relationship. So
Get out of here.
so I lit him up. I said, don't ever ask me to put my integrity on the line with the coaching staff.
Good for you for putting it back on him.
Oh, I put it on him 100%. And he apologized. I mean, I think he genuinely felt bad, but I think in his head he thought like, all right, since me and Coach Myers are boys, like he ain't gonna snitch on me. But like that's not how I look at it at all. I said, like, you're asking me to sacrifice my reputation because you didn't prioritize what you were supposed to do today.
Two different things.
Way two different things. And I mean,
he lumped them together though.
He lumped them together, and I was like, so I think it was a learning experience for him. And like, even the part of me, like, even though I knew that the guy lied, the part of me, it was hard to come out and just say like, no, he's lying to you. But I told him enough for him to know, like, hey, coach, he's lying.
Man,
he was not.
I
here.
like the way you answered that.
I do too, and I think that's something to really reflect on as a leader, especially as you're newer, being a leader. Sometimes, so you got that text and you handled it one way. Another way is to agonize over it and go and write 6 different messages. Hey, I'm sorry, but I told no, sorry. I'm gonna lie. No, you just no. Actually, it's on you. And I have
the way I text him, it was like I was talking to him with my fucking finger in his face. Like, don't ever put me in that spot again.
Because where I was going to go with this, sometimes as coaches, we agonize over an upperclassman who gets beat out by an underclassman, and you start going, man, like it's killing me. I'm not going to be able to play Corey because Tread beat him out and all that stuff. I've had other coaches say, you know what? I look at him and go, you know what? You killed me because you're older and you let a younger guy beat you out. Now I've got to play someone over you.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, you take the onus off of you a little bit and go, wait a minute. It was him who didn't work out hard. It was her who didn't get after it in the off season. But sometimes as coaches, we wear all of that. Whether A, we're covering up a lie, or B, like, man, I feel bad I'm not playing this person. When really the responsibility relies. It's on them.
Yeah, I did not feel bad at all.
And I'm not surprised you flinched.
Well, because it's a complete line that you're not going to cross. That's why you didn't feel bad, D.
No, and there was like, and I kind of got word through the grapevine. They tortured him at the next practice.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, like he stayed after practice, and they said like we punished him on the bike. Like they left him like dead on the ground. So, and I didn't feel bad about it at all because I'm like, you put that on yourself, and like you should have got worse for even trying to put me in a situation like that.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Donate your time for a year and a half, help the guy win a national championship, and then lie about some bullshit like that?
I've worked my entire life to be involved with a program like Ohio State and to be in good graces with the coaching staff. And if I don't care what athlete it is, like if they think I'm going to sacrifice my integrity
over one,
and that's what I'm telling. I said, look, if I don't have if Coach Ryan thinks for a second that he can't count on me, then my relationship with him is over.
Hell yeah.
Because he has no obligation to me. I'm not even down there anymore. I'm 45 minutes away.
It is just like this too. I mean, it's years of relationships could be gone that quickly with a really bad decision like that. I'm not saying like a mistake, but you lie, like you break someone's
I would be viewed in a completely different light. Because I'm not perfect. There's things I do right. There's things I do wrong. I mean, sometimes I don't deliver as well as I should or whatever. I mean, everyone has their faults, but you would never ask someone on that coaching staff like, hey, can you guys count on Coach Myers for this? No, like there would never be a question of how they would answer it. So yeah, for me, I can't believe that he was that immature to think that I would.
That's really what it is, just immature.
Yeah, I don't think he really thought it through, and I think once he did, he felt really bad. But
it's a good story.
Yeah.
How about you, Mike? Anything you're wrestling with right now?
No. I mean, I hate. I always go back to this when I'm on here, but it always hits as being a parent too.
Of course.
That I think it truly does take a village to raise children, and when you have someone that chin checks your kid, I think you should let that happen. Because it's really tough as a parent sometimes to intervene, but I think that's the value of coaches and mentors and teachers. is that when people mess up, you just hold them accountable.
Yeah.
And like I said, these aren't terminal things. Like I'm sure you still have a relationship with that athlete to this day.
Yeah, for sure.
It's all good, right? But it's just the way we handle things. But you need to be taught this, right? You need to be taught that you don't lie to a coach when you don't show up to something. When you fail, you just fail.
Yeah.
When you miss a workout, you say, hey, I missed it. I didn't not tell Coach Ryan something. Anyways, these are all lessons. But it's amazing to me as parents how we really shield our kids from those hard truths sometimes.
Well, I've had
it's a lesson for me.
Yeah.
I've had 2 very recent experiences like this. I'm coaching Granville Youth Wrestling.
There you go.
Actually
Shout
got to
out.
run the practice last night too because Coach Lejeune wasn't there.
There you go.
Which was my first time running the practice, which is kind of interesting. I'll talk about that in a second. But so I had 2 things in the last week. Number one, so we have another one of the assistant coaches who his son's on the team, just like my boy is or whatever. And he had a bad tournament this weekend. He lost all 3 matches. And 2 of the kids were pretty tough that he had, but the third kid he got hammered by. The main reason this kid's losing is because he's exhausted out there. The kid's out of shape. Mm-hmm. And he's the kid that I'm always yelling at during warm-ups. He's not warming up hard. When we do conditioning at the end, he's slacking and complaining or whatever. And it can be tempting to like, all right, well, I'm just going to let him handle his kid. But I went up to him and I said, hey, like, I'm going to give you and your son some tough love here. Like, he's like, oh, yeah, I know he's out of shape. I said, yeah. I said he was exhausted out there, and he's not giving himself a chance. You're not giving yourself a chance when you're out of shape. I don't care how good of a wrestler you are. You can't be tough when you're that tired. I said, so he needs to be on the treadmill on the weekends when we don't have practice. And so then I talked to the kid a little bit more, and I was kind of, trying to sugarcoat it a little bit. I said, hey, man, like, here's my favorite saying, fatigue makes cowards of us all. I said, do you know what that means? No. I said, man, it's tough. It's hard to be tough when you're tired. Mm-hmm. Everyone, I said, I think I'm tough, but when I'm tired, I'm not so brave anymore.
Yeah.
I said, so if you want to be able to be brave when you're out there, you got to get in better shape. So I'm kind of trying to like tie it back to that. But I was like, you know what? I can't, obviously the dad hasn't addressed it with him. So I'm going to address it with him and the dad. And I can't feel bad about that because if it was my kid, I want someone else to kind of step in and let him know too. Now, the other situation I had was we had a parent come and basically their kid had went home and said, hey, this kid that I'm drilling with, I don't want to tell specifics because I don't want to give away who the kids are, but this kid's been, kicked me and smacked me and like is pushing me and blah, blah, blah. Well, the kid who was complaining to their parent about getting kicked or whatever, every day when we're drilling, they just give up. They lay on their back. They're not fighting hard. And the person they're going with is a little bit more experienced, and that person's getting pissed. So I have seen them kind of push them around a little bit. Now, one time I did see them, like they kicked each other or something. I had to go over and you got to remember these kids are like 9 and 10 years old.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the mom comes in and she's all concerned, but it turns out, that partner wasn't there that day. So she wanted to kind of watch, see what was going on, but she didn't get to watch. I said, well, look, I'm going to tell you what's going on here. I said, your kid is probably a little bit frustrated because their partner is more experienced than them. And that can be frustrating when you're constantly getting beat. So they kind of, might give up a little bit. I said, but the real problem is your son doesn't drill hard. And when they're getting beat, they just lay down and roll over. And they probably are getting shoved down around a little bit. It's a physical sport. And their partner is getting really mad because they're not being a good drill partner. They're being lazy. And they just kind of looked at
the mom loved that.
So a little bit later, Coach Lejeune, because the mom stayed there the whole time, and Coach Lejeune, the head coach, said, I talked to so-and-so's mom. I said, well, I already told her. He's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, I told her that her kid's lazy and not trying hard, and that's why their partners push them around. He said, so you told her the truth? I said, yeah, she needs to hear the truth. Coach Ryan, again.
Her expectation would be different when that's what the coach is saying.
We need to be truth tellers, right? Not in a mean way, and I tried to say it in like the nicest way possible, but I wanted to say, no, your kid's lazy as fuck, but that's the real problem there. Is it a problem if their partner kicked them or pushed them? Yeah, but I'd rather have that problem.
Yeah.
Because that's an easier fix.
Though the physicality of wrestling is so different too, right? So it's like that, and then being able to relay that to maybe even a mom, this is the first time her kid's ever done that sport, like they're only hearing what their kid's saying. They're, you know what I mean? But then when you get that blown back in your face, it's like hopefully you evaluate that and say, okay, well, why would coach say this if it's not true?
Well, and I think too, just the way,
and you're direct too, so I bet people love it.
I always like to say I'm an acquired taste in certain ways. I'm like coffee.
That's how he's gonna get better, though.
Yeah. So I felt like the mom needed to hear that, and the mom probably doesn't really understand. Like, hey, if it's a team sport and your kid's slacking on sprints, it really doesn't affect the rest of the team. Yeah, maybe from a motivation standpoint or whatever. But if you're drill partners and one kid's not trying, then the kid who is trying still is not getting anything out of it. You have to give back resistance. You have to try hard, or else they don't get a realistic feel and they're really not getting anything out of the drills.
It comes back to a couple things I've explained in here and at my house lately. Was like, there's about 2 or 3 ways to do things. It's like, not do what you're supposed to do, only do what you're told, and over deliver. And those are 3 things. And so at the end of the day, the over deliver part gets the most ass, the most favor, and the most like upward motion. Doing just what is expected of you is that's what I asked you to do. And then there's the other one, which is going to get you kicked out the door. And so I've explained it to AG. I've explained it to this fucking guy over here too. And at the end of the day, like, you have to look at each situation and think, how am I going to approach this? Whether you're an athlete, whether you're a business person, whether you're just out here operating. Those are what it is. I read that in Andrew Carnegie's book a long time ago, and it just made a bunch of sense to me. If I'm in this situation and I'm over-delivering, I'm trying extra hard, I'm putting in the extra time, I'm going to get a better result. And if I think I need a fucking medal because I'm only doing what's expected of me, I'm going to get passed by.
A, B's, and C players. That's
That's it, bro.
I think it's such a great, like, just to look at those 3 columns, like, it's such a great
It's
example.
that simple.
It's that simple. I was telling Thomas about it today. We were talking about, like, in a different context, but I was kind of broke it down for him. And I mean, the sad reality of it is most people go through life living somewhere in between 1 and 2.
1,000%.
Not doing what they're told or only doing the minimum. And they kind of live in that zone right there. And even a lot of overachievers really kind of live in between 2 and 3.
Yes.
I probably even find myself in between there sometimes, instead of thinking like, all right, I'm always going to be number 3. I'm not always number 3.
Not everybody's number 3 always, yeah.
No, but I probably should be. I want to be.
But I shoot to be number 3.
Right.
And even if you're somewhere in between 2 and 3 as your baseline, you're going to win ultimately. You know what I mean? So it's like, but I think that some people believe the expectation is 2, and it's not. And if that's the only thing
they
they're
feel like an
shooting
A+
for,
is number 2.
I'm here to tell you it's not.
No,
And
that's a C.
And I'm going to fucking beat that person
That's a
every
C
day.
average.
It is. Or maybe a B+, but you ain't going to be an A+ killer if you operate that way. And so if you want more opportunities, people to say, yeah, man, come on over here with me, because they know, wait, this guy's an A+ guy. This player's not going to make me look bad. This coach is not going to make me look bad. That's how you have to be viewed. It takes time to operate that way. But if you try to evaluate each situation like that, how you think in the end of the game, coach is going to be like, I know I can count on that guy. He's going to be diving on the floor. I know I can count on this guy to get an extra point. I think that's how you got to operate. And so even if it's like, I think the coaching staff, even if they can spit that in their own way to their kids, I think that's real valuable. I think we all know it. But when you lay it out that simple, I think it could turn some light bulbs on.
And I think when you do operate from that lens, if you can find yourself on that side of being an A player more often than not,
yeah,
I think that's where you get the awareness too of what others look like when they're just giving half effort, and that's where the disconnect can be a lot of times.
Yeah,
because a lot of people think just by doing the bare minimum that is an A paper or whatever, but if you live on that other line, you're just like, no, you're not getting it, and sometimes you start butting heads because you're seeing it so clearly, like, no, you're not adding value at a high level, and that's where frustration occurs. There's Nick Saban has a great line about that. You know what I'm talking about, Tread? It's about, like, high achievers. What is it? Do you know it?
Yeah, I don't know it off the top of my head, but I know what you're referring to.
High achievers hate mediocrity, and mediocre people hate high achievers.
Yeah.
Because you're not aligned.
Well, and Inky Johnson is said a couple times I've seen on Twitter where it's like when talent meets talent, it's not enough.
That's right.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, there's going to be a ton of people way more talented. But I think if I can live in that 3 area, I can outlast them and beat them because I can't beat them on talent. And so it's like, I think that me being the 6th man in my basketball team is probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I fucking hated it.
Yeah.
I hated that I knew I was better than the guy who was starting over me, but I couldn't crack the lineup, and it bugged the shit out of me. And I think I've had that chip on my shoulder besides the poor part my whole life. So I knew I had to live there or I was not going to get the nod. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me, straight up, coming off the bench, kid.
But I think, like, what Deegan always says is it's not a life sentence. Like,
it's not a life sentence.
There was a time in my life, like, when I was working a job I hated where I was a 1 to 2, and if I was a 2, I had a good day.
Yeah.
Well, you think part of that is kind of tied to the fact that you hated the job?
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's probably it's probably more about that than less about you. It's hard to want to be a 3 when you hate what you're doing, and you know it's not really the thing for you.
So a good friend of mine, we talk about this all the time, and he said he thinks it's so when it's time to let someone go, you know, he said it's not you need to quit being so arrogant about yourself, meaning like it's okay if they leave. Like, it doesn't mean that they necessarily have to change. Maybe changing the environment is what they need, right? So sometimes you're a 1 or a 2 in a certain environment. The environment's not right for you, right? So I don't know. I've had to say goodbye to people, and they've gone on to do great things at other programs or in other organizations, and that's okay. Like, this environment wasn't right for them.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that we're going to bend on our standards either, right? Like, our environment's our environment. But so much about this is who you're around and the environments that you're in. And if you hate your job, if you hate what you're doing, if you're not burning a passion, and I think that's where parents make a lot of mistakes by trying to push their kids into things that they're not passionate about, and then they're lazy, this or that, and really they just don't like what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Have you seen it? I know you've seen this, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you see it. I mean, youth wrestling is a good example. The dad was a wrestler, wants his kid to wrestle really bad. The kid don't try hard. The kid cries all the time. Is it really that the kid's lazy, or is it just he's not a wrestler? You know what I mean? Like,
My kid didn't want to wrestle. I wanted my kid to wrestle. He didn't want to wrestle.
dude, I still think we need to give one more shot.
I think I should have been a wrestler, and it should be a wrestler, but
Yeah.
it can't crack it for some reason.
And
Just what it is.
And he still might.
Exactly.
I keep thinking it's not too late for Andon.
Yeah.
I'm holding out hope because, dude, his tenacity, his strength,
He's a
just his personality.
linebacker. It's like perfect.
Yes, linebackers and wrestling go hand in hand.
Yeah.
They
But
really
but
do.
forcing it to where like, and I tried to do that, and it just didn't feel natural.
I've seen more disruption with that.
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, because of that, I'm probably too far on the other end.
Yeah,
I've got to
I
watch
agree with
that because I probably need to push a little bit more at times because I've just seen so many parent-kid relationships get button heads
Oh,
over
yeah.
really nothing over lack of passion.
Well, and it's hard because what's the right percentage of push, and that's also on the
Yeah,
personality. Like it doesn't die.
and that's why I'm not going high and mighty here, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm
We all
saying
struggle with it.
There should be a level of push. You can't say,
Yeah.
oh, no. But when you can see when a kid just isn't into it, and and then you're fighting to get them to practice, you're fighting, and you hate the car ride home, then you're yelling at them, right?
The worst feeling is that when it's obvious that you want it more than they want it.
That's right.
AG shows up to see Rome with no glove.
You're like,
Come on, AG.
yeah, I set this up, man. Like
Yeah,
this.
you're telling me you want to get better, and this is how you show up, no shoes and no glove, to your pitching lesson?
Yeah, like,
I could have strangled him.
Yeah.
Now, when I got his glove for him, and he went, he learned, he got better, he did well, and he operated like he wanted to be there. But
But
walking up, I was like,
but there's just one click there more,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
they're
I'm like, you got your glove?
Yeah.
Wait.
Well, because my opinion is like I think sometimes we have to watch that because there's some of these like these are some things that I'm able to provide for my kids are like dreams that I wish I would have had.
Of course.
Like
Doesn't mean it's their dream, though.
That's right. So you're like, why aren't you excited? Like I got you a lesson with the pitching coach over here. Like what? I'd have had my shoes on at 8 a.m. for this
Bro,
thing. And
yes.
'cause that's how I would have been, right? But for them, it's like, oh,
But
boy.
it's normal.
That's
Coach.
right. I know.
It's a new normal that we like.
Don't.
We can't even almost identify with it because the way we grew up was so
Well,
different.
I know.
and then on top of it, you can't criticize because they can never feel how you feel. And I try to run that back and forth because, yeah, between Rome or going to see DeLucia, like,
You just
you're
provide all
DeLucia-
this-
yeah, it's just like unbelievable opportunities. But Dad does that all the time because that's just how we operate.
Yeah.
So, like, why should he be overly, oh my gosh? It's normal that Matt Brown's in the gym while they're lifting yesterday.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, it's just that's like our life's different.
Yeah.
So that's a hard one to run back
Yeah,
and forth,
I
man.
know.
I've struggled with that.
So, I had really worried if I made the right choice last year when I let Jack not wrestle. I think we probably talked about it on here before, whatever, but it was kind of like preseason. He had a year off because of COVID. I'm getting him back into wrestling. I'm taking a wrestling club. He has a bad practice. He's crying. Then he don't want to go back to practice. And then I was like thinking like, all right, it's one bad practice. He's going to get over it. Well, then like maybe 2-3 practices later, like wakes up on the weekend or whatever. He's kind of pretending he has a sore throat. I know. I was like, all right, we're not going to do this. I'm not going to be the dad that drags him to practice and he's trying to fake like he's sick to get out of it. But part of me feels like, well, all right, is he going to be done being a wrestler now? It's like, is my dream of him wrestling over? But I thought, he's in 3rd grade. I can't want it for him. So I need to just step back, let him take the year off, and hopefully he'll come back to it. Well, sure enough, now he came back to it. He's wrestling this year. He loves it. He's out there smashing kids. He's looking great. He's making improvements every week. So like, if I would have pushed him and made him wrestle last year, by now he'd been over
May
it.
have lost it.
And he probably would have had a terrible year because he goes into practice excited. He's pumped. I mean, he drills hard. I mean, he looks the part, and he's having a lot of fun with it. So, like, again, it's an example of, like, I struggled with it last year because I'm like, how is my kid not going to wrestle? Like when he was 3 and 4 years old, he was hanging out in the Ohio State room watching practice. Like
That was his normal.
yeah, he's been around it his whole life. How's he not going to be a wrestler?
You have a picture in the newspaper with him and Kyle Snyder with his gold medal.
Yeah, he got to greet Kyle when he got off the airplane from Rio with his gold medal, you know? He was too young to even want to hold it, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I really struggled with it last year, but now I look back on it, and you know, hopefully some young sports dads or whatever that are listening can learn from this. Is like I made the right decision. I didn't push, and he came back to it on his own.
It's tough.
But I mean, we're still only in 4th grade, so hopefully it sticks.
Right now, you look smart.
Yeah.
Shit can change quick, right?
Hey, you know, I mean, he's undefeated so far in the year, but he might get his ass whooped next week and all of a sudden hate it. You just never know. I've kind of tried to prepare him for that too. I said, like, man, dude, wrestling's a lot of fun. I said, and it's even real fun when you're dominating everyone. I said, but you're going to wrestle someone this year that's a lot more experienced and you're going to get beat. I said, so you just got to, like, it was almost like the kind of like have that same energy type of speech. I told him. And he looks like he understands, and hopefully he's had enough success now that he's going to be able to kind of like internalize that loss a little bit better. And like, but I don't know. We'll see. It's still an unknown at this point.
I want to bring up an experience I had, which was awesome. Was I went and spoke to the 6th graders, and it was more about like my profession. Like they had different parents come in, and it was about 100 kids. And I'm probably more nervous speaking to kids than I am adults because I'm not
watch your
used
language too. Right?
That too, and Andon even said like, "Dad, you know you can't cuss," which is pretty bad, right? But it's like one of those things where, you know, I was thinking, all right, I don't want to be boring. I want to make sure it's like fun, but I want to be able to teach them stuff. And the things that Andon had come home and talked about, he learned at a couple of the other ones mean some of the kids are locked in because they're starting to pay attention to this stuff. So it was like really cool. Like I had pictures of like the coal mine, and I told him I was a fitness entrepreneur, that I broke it out, and I had pictures of the coal mine, how I got there, whatever. But it really comes back to them, especially a lot of the sports kids. I'm like, all right, I'm going to show you what a personal trainer is now. I get up on the chair. I got them all up. I have them squats. There's 100 kids trying to squat. I mean, the form is outrageously bad, right? I sit them all down. I go, all right, I'm going to teach you guys how to squat. I give them the form, and then I get them back up again. They all squat again, and they're all hooting and hollering. I sit them back down. I go, okay, now I was trying to teach you what my job is. Now I just showed you how to squat. I'd work you out for 20, 30 more minutes, and I'd charge you each $10. And they all look around and go, whoa, like, you know. And probably my favorite part of the whole entire thing was, though, they asked some good questions, whatever. It was good. I brought them all in to the middle like you break a huddle at the end. So I knew a lot of the sports kids obviously would know what's up or whatever. So I come in the middle. I'm like, hey, we have Aces Pride. I want to bring everybody in. Dude, when I come into the middle, all the football kids start, oh. So all of a sudden, I got 100 kids jumping. And then, you know, we get ready to break, and then they just start piling on top of each other. It's all of a sudden the other teachers are trying to pull the kids off of each other. And so it almost ended into like a melee at the end. But I think they had a lot of fun, and it was really cool. Like, it was a great experience and also, like, fulfilling, right? Because some of the kids you could tell were really locked in, and it was hilarious, bro.
I'm laughing thinking of the poor teachers that had to pick
up.
He walks out, right?
Oh, yeah, I was out. And then I just returned them back.
They're probably on tilt for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Well, I was the last period, which was good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that'd be like when your kids go to grandma's house and they get all jacked up on sugar.
Sugar, yeah.
What I was
Oh,
thinking.
if this would have been lunchtime, they'd have been in trouble.
That's what I was
Because
thinking.
literally we had like, a championship, like 1, 2, 3 aces break, but almost like the, like that. Dude, it was
Dude,
fun.
my first thought is like, what if one of the kids on the bottom of the pile breaks their arm?
I
in school or
know.
whatever?
I mean, it was like on top of chairs. It was hilarious. But I think once again, me helping with the rec, because I ran practice this week too. So pretty excited about that.
We got 2 elite youth coaches here now.
So I ran
Still the
practice.
second assistant.
I'm telling you, I'm higher up on the totem pole than Mike, which is amazing. And so ran practice, coached some kids up a little bit on squats. It's a big coaching week for me.
You know, this is a side takeaway from that, but just how important movement is. Think about how the energy that whole building picked up just by doing some squats. Like, it's crazy in schools now how we suppress so much of the motion. But I don't know, like someone who's an active person.
Yeah,
it's crazy what we ask of kids to go sit for 7 hours, basically. Just by doing a few squats, by doing a few.
Yeah, they were hype.
The whole mood picks up, right?
Well, and I gave out some T-shirts. I had kids come up and do like 15 push-ups. I give them a T-shirt. Like it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Sure
and
it was.
just I think also if I think about myself, 6th, 7th grade, if I had somebody that stood up in front of me and said, "I do what I love for my job," Like that was the biggest thing I was trying to get. My whole takeaway was I do what I love. I'm extremely consistent, and I've done it for a really long time. And I'm in it. Like I tried to like make these real easy, like understandable things. And it was like, you know, I just never really had anybody tell me that.
I don't
that
think
they
I can
love their job.
Yeah, I don't think I can even ever remember, even through high school, knowing anyone that like did what they loved for a living.
No.
Like I can remember people liking their job, but it's almost like job was always looked at as like something separate from that person.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, my dad worked in the steel mill. My mom taught at the nursing college. Like it was something they did, but it wasn't what they loved or who they are. Even if my mom liked teaching and was really good at it.
Yeah, I would say teaching is probably the one profession that I knew the person liked it because they weren't doing it for money.
Right.
Teachers are, and that's what I said. I was like, everyone in this room that's a teacher likes being a teacher, or they're not. They didn't do this
right.
to make money. I mean, it's just a fact, right? So it's like I think I remember thinking your mom like enjoyed her job because she would talk about it and she enjoyed teaching. But like other than that, I can't think of anyone else that loved their job.
Right.
It's really, I think it's more common now, but really uncommon back then.
When I quit my job at Coke, my dad was just like dumbfounded.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like,
What do you mean you said don't pay me
He
anymore?
said, "How? Like, they're not going anywhere. You're making good money. Like how? Like what's going?" I'm like, "Dad, I don't like it." But
Yeah.
but it was at that era, right? Like, well, that doesn't matter. That's separate. You work there, and then you're done, and then you come home. And but yeah, you had the same experience, right?
I can't see you in a Coke Polo.
Oh,
I just got that vision for a second, Coach.
Here's the thing though. Like you said, it is more common now, but how common is it long term? Or is more, is probably the more common thing, okay, you work for Coca-Cola, you go try your hand at college, baseball coaching for a while, and then 5-10 years later, you're back in an executive job, you're working Coca-Cola. So like someone like you or I, and probably yourself that are doing what we love long term, like this is all I'm going to ever do.
Yep.
Like how common is that really? I don't think it's as common as we think.
Yeah, probably not. You're probably right, D.
well, if you think about, it starts like this, right? There's like so many that start off, entry point's very low, right?
Yeah.
And then if you go to where we are now, that has really dwindled down. Because like you said, a lot of people have dabbled with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of fitness entrepreneurs for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
But are you going to be a fitness entrepreneur for 30 or 40 years?
Do they even get your attention? 2 or 3 years, somebody like that? Does somebody – no.
I think there's a couple things. It's like a couple years, no, and then on top of it, like if you end up, I don't know, about having your own facility is kind of a big deal for me in my head. And I think because I remember the change for me. So like if you could be a really great trainer at World Gym, quote unquote, right? But for some reason for me, and I think it's because I've always, we've always been in our own joint. When you make that transition, I think to where it's your joint, even if it's small, doesn't matter. I just think that there's a different level of like respect that you get from me. I don't know why. It's probably because that was my path, maybe.
Yeah. Sure.
And I never fit like in some like box. But I mean, there's guys that, flourish in some other environments. But to me, it was like, I don't know, like when guys would come to me and say, I'm the fucking, like, I would have a lot of younger dudes come to me and be like, I'm the best in my town. Maybe, but you don't own your own place.
Yeah.
So do you think people really taking you that serious?
Yeah.
Just saying.
I can remember when you were getting ready to open, T3, and you kind of talked to me about, me coming and starting training there because I wasn't training yet. And really my experience with watching trainers for the most part was at World Gym when we go work out. And I remember one of the first things I asked you was, are we going to get polos that say trainer on the back? Do you remember this?
No. But I mean, I'm sure I can already tell you my answer though.
You were like, no, that's stupid. And I remember thinking like, well, that's what trainers do. Like I really didn't know. But then it was from your point of view, it was like, no, well, this is gonna be my place. And if I think that's stupid, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I can remember in my head thinking
That
like,
felt
well,
cookie cutter to me.
yeah,
The clipboard trainer. That's what
but I was
guys.
still thinking about like a corporate mindset, like, well, if we're gonna be trainers, we need the shirt that says trainer on it,
Yeah,
like a polo, like they would wear at World Gym.
Which is funny because like I would see them with their clipboard and I'd see with the trainer. I'm like, that's not really what it looks like in my head. You know what I mean? So I think that was like one of the, a couple there's some like really bright stars I think that have come up, especially in the social media era, right? And then so I'm looking for like, if guys want, like ultimate respect, it's like, they got to be around. They got to be proven that they're here. They're not fly by night, which is what I had to do. Yeah. So like the guys that show me love, it's really like a lot of it happened after MP. I was still around. I'm not I wasn't a one a one-time type of deal. You know what I mean? Like I was already in business for 10 years before I even started that. So a lot of those guys didn't know that. Then when I come back with the new company and still all this, and you could see like some of the OGs in the game is like, all right, this dude ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, you've been vetted by the highest people.
So I
in the
kind of
business.
got like
Yeah.
the arm in,
Yeah.
like, okay, he's one of the
Yeah.
dudes is around. So
Yeah,
I'm
so
sure
what-
it's same with you.
So what you're saying isn't any different for yourself. You're saying like you had to go through these same steps, right? Like to be.
But I think that's probably why internally that's like my
that's your
structure of
filter.
what I
Yep,
think.
fair.
So it could be someone else's, you
Very
know.
fair.
That's just
Very
my
fair.
own personal
Very
one.
fair.
But I don't know. I have my own little rules,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Fair.
And maybe, I mean, I don't know. You probably have a similar thing in yours, right?
Yeah, you know, I've never thought about it like that. Like as far as I don't know if there's that same weeding out process, but I would say, for me personally, I would say it's probably I'm in my 20th year now coaching. Probably in the last like 2 or 3 is where I've seen just the consistency of doing the right things for a lot of years really take shape in relationships and the network and those types of things. But yeah, I think there is just something about being proven, going through some adversity, sticking with it, and watching other people fall off in some ways.
And is it like one of those things, because I know you're chasing one at Denison, is like if you don't win a championship, is that, or what you do, is that some like major, because I always think about like certain players like in sports, like Barkley, or guys that like were great athletes but didn't win a chip, and it's like, should they not be looked upon like these other guys?
Yeah, I
Is
think
that the same in coaching too?
I don't know. No, I would say there has to be some level of success within a program. I would say that. But for me, it's more – I heard this quote a long time ago. He said, good coaching or great coaching is doing the best you possibly can with the resources you have in front of you. Like, so then it's doing the best job with the resources you have.
I feel like that in my lifting career.
Yeah, right.
I swear to you,
this is
what I got.
This is what I had. But to me, then as you get older, I think I can identify those coaches who are doing the best they possibly can with the resources they have in front
so
of them.
I mean,
does that make
reality
sense?
is their coaching might be elite and they're getting results with not as good a talent.
I know some guys who run 500 programs that I think maximize everything they possibly.
Yeah.
But they don't have the infrastructure, the resource at the school. You know those things. But then I think the next layer to that is then as a leader is how do I start trying to get some of those higher level resources, right? But I think for me, I don't really value the coaches because I think you can. Well, they say, and this is not maybe accurate, but they say about Ryan Day, Jim Harbaugh line of he's starting on third base.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so if you're the Ohio State coach, you're going to have a little bit more resources than you do at some other places. So
a little bit more. That
might be why Mike
Yeah.
Mike Leach was looked upon so good. He's going to those programs and building them out of nothing.
Yeah, right.
And they're winning bowl games.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I like it. Troy, what you thinking over there, buddy?
I just think, like, from the beginning of this episode until now, the blueprint has kind of been laid out for you, right? You find something you're passionate about, you go after it with everything, and then you become that 3-level operator where you want to be that 3, and then that's how you start to gain success. Like, if your standard is being a 1 to 2 or even a 2, you're never going to be anything anywhere. And I knew that. You know, being an athlete, sometimes you go to practice and you're like, well, if I'm just like not the worst player here today, then I'm having a good day. And that's why I never amounted to anything as an athlete. And looking back on it retrospectively, it's one of the things that I want to, like, you know, pass on to this next generation of kids when I'm coaching them is if you come in every day and just say, I'm going to be the best that I can do, you're only at practice for 2 hours a day, right? And then I understand you have all this other stuff going on. If you can just be a 3 for that small window of time and then go out and then operate in that 2 to 3 range, you're going to be very successful. But it's the people that leave that and then drop to the 1 to 2 range that just never really make it out of, oh, he's a great athlete, but this. Or he's a great business person, but this. I think if you're striving to be in that 2 to 3 range, you'll end up in the position that you guys are.
Yeah.
Cool.
D, you got anything to add there, D?
No, I mean, kind of going back to what Deegan was talking about with coaching, I think you do have to look at resources and you have to look at athletes. I mean, the reality is, you know, you're not going to win. Yeah, it's going to be hard for OU football to win the NCAA championship. You know what I mean? Because they're getting great athletes, but they're not getting the same athletes that Ohio State is getting or Alabama's getting. I mean, it's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
You see the same thing in wrestling. I forget what the stat is, but there's only been so many programs that have ever won the team title, and it's maybe like 5 or 6 different programs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's Penn State, it's Oklahoma State, it's Ohio State, which, you know, Iowa, and Ohio State's only won 1.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's only been a handful of them. So you can have a really elite coach that has to do with, make the best of what they got with the resource they got and ultimately with the athletes they got. Like if you don't have the horses, you know what I mean?
Well, if I don't win the rec basketball championship, I'm putting it on myself
Yeah.
this year. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, no doubt.
I got high hopes, bro. All right, you guys good?
I'm good.
All
Hey,
right,
real
good.
quick, one
Yeah.
thing. So what did you feel was different about having to run the practice for the rec this
Well,
week?
I know my spot in the coaching staff. Jared is extremely dialed in and very to the book, has task initiatives. I am the rah have fun, a lot of one-on-one competition. I'm not going to run the offense while he's gone. He knows that I'm going to do something completely different. So it's more drills about shooting, free throws. I just know that I'm going to do the other stuff that he's not going to do. And it's actually, we have completely two different personalities. So it's really, we actually make a really good coaching staff because we're so different than each other. And so I think the kids might say, they like that one better, but they're not getting all the way better just because of what I'm doing.
Sure.
So I try to I'm like, you guys need both of us, and we're winning because of Jared. It's just the truth, and I know that about myself.
I love that vulnerability because if we were doing it my way all the time,
We wouldn't be winning.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he is literally we're playing high school basketball.
Yeah.
And that's why, and they won the championship last year. He is a proven
Oh,
guy.
He's a proven commodity.
He's a proven guy. And so, but we're just so different. But I think that that's what the kids like. And so, they're going to get both of those things. And so that's why I tell AG, he's like, yeah, Dad, he's like, I really like when you run practice. I'm like, you should like it because it's different, but you're winning because of Jared.
and you'll like that.
Yeah, and it's just the truth. It's funny.
Did you have any takeaways, D, from your becoming a head coach?
So my biggest takeaway was that it's harder than it looks.
It is harder.
To put together the practice plan and to execute it and keep, when you got 30, 10-year-olds in a room or whatever, to really,
I'd really struggle with that.
yeah. So, and there were certain things that I probably did different than Coach Lejeune does. And he's a great coach, but there was some of the things I felt I feel like the practice needs to be a little bit faster paced and a little bit more intense. So I implemented that last night.
Yeah.
But overall, it's easier being my normal role is I'm the number 2 guy. So when he's showing technique, I'm the kind of practice dummy. I walk around and help kids and stuff, but he's the one running the show. Being the number 1 guy is harder than it looks, even at that level. So it kind of gave me, it's one thing to run a group of weightlifters in here. I'm used to that, but doing it in a different environment, it was more challenging than I thought. It was a lot of fun though.
The one thing I liked is I have been chirping things, and I don't think they knew what I was talking about. I'm talking about beating guys to a spot on defense, things that I did really well because I didn't have a lot of offensive skills. And so I was able to actually show them. So now when I'm saying it in the game, they know exactly. And I was actually showing them physically, all right, dribble right hand, I'm going to beat you to the spot. I'm going to turn you, I'm going to beat you to this spot. And then getting up on top. Guys don't like when you play defense this way. And the kids started getting it. So there's a few things that I got to implement too that now I know when I'm coaching in the game, it'll transition better.
I think, and I can say it's because you had the vulnerability of being like, hey, this is why we went. But I also think it's much easier to be a guest hitter or a keynote speaker.
So
you can
be the fun guy.
For one, I got this practice. I got it tonight. I'm going to put the most up-tempo practice. We're going to.
Yeah.
But to do that tomorrow and the next day and next week, next month.
Well, that was the same thing I said to, Coach Lejeune's kids were there, and I went up to Jagger after. I said, man, I don't know how your dad does this every practice. It's hard.
Yeah.
I was worn out. My pits were all stained and sweaty, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's definitely harder than it looks. So shout out to all the rec league and youth coaches out there.
no doubt.
Actually, I was just going to say that because in every community, these guys and gals are playing a bigger part than maybe they realize. They're doing it for the love of it. Most of the time, they have a kid on the team.
That's right.
But we need all of that to, once again,
Takes
to
a
raise our
village.
kids.
That's
It
right.
raise a village. So
Yep.
shout out to everybody.
Big shout out.
All right. I think this is a great episode. Sam Adams, MaxEverMuscle.com, Coach's Clinic. We out.